question that I've been asking myself recently is, why did I become an academic rebel? What I mean by an academic rebel is that although I'm quite passionate about learning and I'm quite passionate about artificial intelligence and I'm quite passionate about business, wealth creation and these grander questions in life, why is it that if you look at my records, you'll see that I wasn't like a perfect student, or I wasn't someone who received a lot of accolades, or maybe like a lot of awards and things like that. And partly the reason for it is that, growing up and going to university, I did not see a need for chasing accolades. And because I did not see a need for it, maybe that's why I didn't focus on it. Because my primary focus throughout my school and throughout my university was to really know who I am and who am I and what do I want in life. That's the personal goal, and the academic goal for me was to come up with a complete theory of everything, which includes artificial general intelligence and a current understanding of physics, and all the questions along that line. So I think many of you know that the reason why I'm in Edinburgh is because I was a super nerd back in India before I came here, and I was obsessed with artificial intelligence, and so I looked up the best universities in the world to study AI, and Edinburgh just happened to be the best in the UK. So I applied here, I got in, and once I got in, I realized that the syllabus and the way the subject was being taught to me would not bring me any closer to building AGI. And pursuing AGI is like, it's kind of impractical to begin with, because I would just be sitting there doing research which no one understands and no one is going to come back to support me, because it's, first of all, it questions the scientific foundation in the first place. So like the whole scientific principle comes under the purview of why is it that you can reason in a scientific way and a non-scientific way at the same time. And moreover, like, if it's true that I did formulate a general theory of everything while in university, while still part of these systems where there are people on top who can take my research and then use that to further their cause, then the kind of world which you would enter would be it would be quite conservative to say that it would be scary. We think nuclear weapons are bad because they can wipe out entire cities. If you have a theory of everything, and you have this theory while the planet still hasn't been unified into a single state and a single economy, and the human species hasn't reached a high degree of stability, then the kind of weapons which would result from it would be phenomenal and catastrophic at massive scale. It's like, nuclear weapons can wipe out entire cities. This would allow for a swarm of nanobots which would just go and rip and tear the flesh of a person standing in front of you as this person just vanishes into thin air. That's scary. Second of all, if we do enter this fabulous new era where everyone has access to great technology and great leverage, which is something which we cannot stop. It's like we are on a freak train where no one is in charge, and the reason progress happens is out of sheer necessity of trying to stabilize something which is very unstable, because there's this constant back and forth between chaos and order. Entropy keeps increasing and the order ordering principle of light tries to bring it down, but entropy keeps increasing again. And we're heading towards a world where that back and forth would lead to a very high leverage in terms of the capacity of the individual. Even the other day I spoke to one of my friends, and he was telling me about this new startup which is doing what a delivering company like Deliveroo does, but 3 or 4 developers using blockchain and smart contracts. And if you think about it, that's insane. And so if we're heading to such a high leverage world where individuals become industries, and someone is having a bad day, then they can wipe out the entire species. And it's like the reason why that's possible is because let's say I have a Tesla and I'm driving the Tesla at 12 kilometers per hour, and I just do that with the steering wheel. Most probably the car will just move in a snake-like pattern and then come back on track. But let's say if I'm driving a car at 200 kilometers per hour and I do that, then the car is just going to flip, and there's no way I can survive that. It's the same thing with the kind of technological leverage which we're heading towards. And in such a high leverage world, if you even have AGI and a theory of everything, then the people who are in charge and who would get a hold on this technology would literally be able to become gods in every sense we imagine that word. And if you do this without having a unification of the planet, you'd have, I don't know, I'm terrified of an extinction event. So although it's quite nice to get accolades from university and be praised by the people in charge, but if you really do have something valuable and you really do go down the line in which you're perfect, ideal kid doing everything right, everyone is just like, yeah, he knows the system, first of all, you'll never have progress, because progress always comes from outliers. You can't see them coming. And the second thing is that I would risk giving away very valuable research and technology to people who might not have the foresight or the understanding to see the kind of stability which is required for an entire species to be able to transition into a new era, which would be ushered in by the technologies of the future, which would mostly revolve around artificial intelligence and revolve around these understanding of how human consciousness works. Told you about the nanobot scenario. Another scenario which terrifies me is that someone can infect your mind and implant false memories, and you wouldn't even know about it. Already you have threats with AI where people can sort of steal your identity by creating fake speech videos where they can synthesize your voice and your facial expressions, and they can make you give a speech which you did not give. Technology which I'm currently working on solves that, because it would create an extended mind that's unique for each user, and if it's unique for each user, then obviously it can easily sort of shift and navigate any fraudulent attempt which goes off baseline for your extended mind, because then it's kind of a digital way of verifying that it's not you who could have possibly given something like that based on your current paradigm of thinking. Okay, so that's it for this vlog, and the reason why I decided to become an academic rebel and was never recognized in the system and was never an ideal student and never got many accolades was because that wasn't what I was aiming for. What I was aiming for could never be taught in university, and if I did go down that route, it would have been a safe life. It wouldn't have been the life which I wanted to live. So that's why I've taken this risk, and I'm in the situation which I am, and running the business which I am.